Welcome. Hey, it is so good to have you here. Knowing that your time is valuable and you've chosen to be here with me and with this community, I thank you. And today I'm doing a solo, and I wanted to talk about the neuroscience behind personalization. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because I'm currently doing a research project specifically on how AI and human collaboration can accelerate personalization. And what that means is accelerate the human aspect of work, is how leaders can be even more human and more personalized with their teams with the support of AI. And I know that might sound counterproductive and say, well, if you're using technology, is that really being personal? And I want to tell you that any way that you tap into your heart and you care and show you care about someone else, whatever methods you do that, I don't think it matters. Because think about it. When you want to send somebody a beautiful note, express how you feel, maybe you go to the Hallmark store or a card and you buy a card. But someone else wrote that. You didn't write that, but you picked one out that represented either the humor that you wanted or it represented the heartfelt message that somehow said it better than you could have said it. So isn't that the same thing of how we're using ChatGPT and different AI tools in that nature? Is it's helping us to say what's in our heart or what we feel or express ourselves in a way that articulates it a little bit better than we can. Maybe it structures it better than we can so that it's better understood, so that it's better received. And what's wrong with that? So let's say that we're going to use ChatGPT as a way to be more personal with people. What's wrong with that if it helps us to stop and think about what's important to that person, what it is that their objectives and goals might be, and what objectives and goals do we have as an organization, and how can we make the two collaborate? How can we use this technology so that we can take the firm's goals and align them with the personal goals? I think that is a complete win-win, and that's how we enable technology to help us to collaborate with the human side of things. So today, I want to talk about the science, the neuroscience behind personalization, and help you to see why it matters altogether, and then also how you can use AI in order to tap into a greater and deeper connection with your teammates, with your subordinates. So let's talk about how you can create deeper connections with your team, whether you're the leader of the team or whether you're a team member, but also you can bring this back home. How might you use this with your spouse and your children in a way that's congruent with how you feel and how you want to show up, but also in mind of how you can enhance the relationship? So think about it, the neuroscience of personalization. Why do we light up when somebody remembers our name? Hey, Penny, there's something about it, about hearing your name, that your mind perks to attention. Oh, they know my name. Or they're calling me, they're specifically speaking to me. Something as simple as just repeating someone's name. And it can also have the opposite effect. If you're not used to be calling that name and your mother says, Penelope, that's not my name, but if I had a full name, right? So if your name was Fred and your mother said Frederick, right? You know she's mad. So just using someone's name in the way that you use it can make a big difference into how they receive the information. What does this mean for you as a leader, for your organization, and for our daily interactions? So let's talk about why your name feels different and the neuroscience behind it. So, neuroscience tells us that when you hear your own name, your medial prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's linked to identity and self-perception, it immediately activates. And at the same time, your brain's dopamine system, it fires up, delivering tiny little reward signals. So this is what's happening in your brain from a neuroscience perspective, and that's why you perk to attention. And that's why Dale Carnegie's classic advice is to remember people's name. If you've ever read Dale Carnegie's book, Winning Friends and Influencing People, the advice was to remember people's names. It's not just good manners, it's brain science. Hearing your name literally feels good. So there's one little tip that you can take away from today is to remember people's names and use people's names as you're speaking to them. And if you're bad at remembering names and things like that, use associations. I just moved and we're meeting a lot of new neighbors. And the funny thing is that we're remembering each other's dogs more than we're remembering each other's own names. So why is that? Well, maybe because you like poodles, so you're remembering that poodle's little name, or that big German Shepherd, right? It's called Deacon. You're remembering somehow, you're connecting it. So, what can you do to connect people's names with some type of object? So, somebody has two poodles. So, I know that it's, Sherry and Jeff with the two poodles. That's how I kind of remember it. Maybe it's one of the people we went into their home and they had a beautiful Art Deco type of home. And now I remember Brenda as the Art Deco woman. So little tricks to associate somebody, or maybe there's a neighbor that's his name is Gary, and my brother's name is Gary. So now I can make that connection. And as soon as I kind of say that in my head, oh, my brother's name is Gary, now I'm more likely to remember his name. And every time you say someone's name, you're also more likely to remember it. So not only every time you say it is it lighting them up, but it's also helping you to remember it so that you can use their name when appropriate. And of course, don't overdo it because that looks like you're trying too hard or you're being manipulative. So it's finding that right balance. But the fact is that using someone's name does light them up. It does create a little bit of a deeper connection in that moment because you're using their name. So let's talk about a second area of neuroscience for personalization. Let's bring some of Robert Cialdini's work in. In his book, Influence, he outlines 6 principles of persuasion: reciprocity, social proof, authority, liking, consistency, and scarcity. And later, he added a 7th item, which was unity. And personalization, it taps into these directly. Think of Netflix recommending a movie and saying, hey, people like you also enjoyed this. Oh, people like me? Okay, well, then I want to look at that. I don't know why that is so interesting to me, but it is. It's that social proof, right? That plus the relevance to you that gives you more attention to that and makes you feel good that you're having those recommendations made. Or what about Spotify creating your year in review, that playlist of all the things that you listened to and loved, right? It's tapping into that liking and that unity. And here's the thing: research shows that we remember information better when it connects to us. I'm a public speaker, and there is a ton of content and information out there. And very often, speakers, even myself, sometimes I may talk about things that you might already know, but it's the way I'm delivering it in a story that might connect with you personally that makes all the difference, is why it clicks and why not only did you hear it today and you knew about it, but now it sticks and you're going to do something about it because it goes a little bit deeper when we connect deeper to it in the moment. Now let's shift to motivation and let's look at Daniel Pink's work. In his book Drive, he argued that the real drivers of motivation, they aren't just the carrot and stick rewards, right? It's not just about giving somebody money and they'll be more interested and motivated and perform better in the organization. But there are 3 deeper forces at play. One of them is autonomy, giving us more meaningful choices. Number 2 is mastery. It's by tailoring the learning or experiences to our needs so that we can create mastery for ourselves to achieve something in depth and have that sense of accomplishment. And then purpose. Purpose by helping us to see the bigger picture and why it's important to us and how it connects directly to us and meaning to us. And that's how personalization work. It supports all three of these. So think about your onboarding at work, for instance. Are you doing a one size fits all onboarding in your orientation? Then you're not connecting to anyone individually, likely anyway, right? And when you do that and there's a disconnection or a detachment, it actually drains motivation. People don't feel important from the beginning. They don't feel like they're going to be valued or recognized in this environment. But when you provide a personalized path that recognizes those people's strengths or their styles of how they like to learn, whether you give them that personal connection to what it is that they're doing and not just about the job and the role, but who they are as a person. And now you're making a deeper connection. And that is rocket fuel for engagement. There are actually studies that show that onboarding is one of the most important elements. Here's something to note is that 69% of employees are more likely to stay with a company for at least 3 years if they had a great onboarding experience. Research that was done by the Brandon Hall Group for Glassdoor, they found that effective onboarding, it boosts new hire retention by 82%. Other studies show that 1/3 of all employee turnover occurs within the first 6 months. So those first 45 days of employment alone can account for up to 20% of worker turnover. If a new hire has a negative experience and leaves, that can cost your company 90% to 200% of that employee's annual salary to find a replacement. And that's significant. So why not put the money into hiring the right people and then giving them a great personalized experience during their onboarding so that they stay, that they're engaged and committed to the organizational goals, and that they feel not just committed, but connected to those goals and how and why it's important to them. Okay, now let's look at companies putting this into practice and the results that they're getting. So, Spotify, for instance, research shows that personalized podcast recommendations, they increase engagement by nearly 30%. But there's a flip side, is it also narrowed individual diversity, right, of what people listen to. So that's a little bit of a personalization paradox. You get great engagement, but then you have the risk of people not branching out and experiencing other new things. So you have to keep that in mind when you're planning personalization efforts, is not to bucket people into one way of thinking, but to keep in mind those personalization elements and how they might be useful and effective for you. There was a study that was done of personalized content that increased kids' engagement by 60%. That's huge, right? At schools, the biggest gain came from the kids with more unique interests, right? The one that would benefit from being seen. Let's take a look at Adobe. Adobe redesigned feedback by scrapping their annual reviews because they're generic and it takes too long for people to get that individual personalized feedback. Very often, those annual reviews are really very job specific and not person specific. So by creating continuous check-ins, now they can offer more personalized feedback. And the result was it led to a 30% drop in voluntary turnover. That's neuroscience in action. Recognition and relevance, they keep people engaged. So let's look at an important element in all that's changing with AI and technology, and it's driving people's behaviors, it's driving what they're listening to and looking at. And so a lot is changing. But I want you to understand that as much as things have changed, there's also things that stay the same. So that means that we have to recognize that the tools are changing, but what people need underneath it all stays the same. So, for instance, the butcher shop back in the day when you went in to buy your meats, they were very personalized. They knew what you preferred, and they maybe even had it ready if you came in every Friday to pick up your meat. They remembered your name and they were able to personalize your experience. And it felt good, so you kept coming back to that butcher. And today it looks a little bit different, right? Netflix uses algorithms and recommends the next things for you to watch, but it still works. And then now with AI, we're seeing a whole next level. But the thing is we're seeing that we can collaborate with personalization. We can give our preferences so that we can receive the kind of things that we want. So in the past, we might have seen more recommendations, and in the future, we're going to see more collaboration so that we really get what we want. And also, we can be open up for that diversity that we want so that we can show the diverse options of what we like. And then maybe it asks us, what are you in the mood for today? And you say, well, I'm in the mood for a little hip hop. And then you're going to get more of what you're in the mood for than a generic suggestion. So, what hasn't changed is our need to feel special. Recognition, it activates reward pathways, right? For the dopamine and the serotonin, as well as belonging, right? That releases oxytocin. And all of this personalization and how it impacts our brain is how we build trust, engagement, and loyalty. And this isn't just at work, this is at home as well, right? You feel more connected with your children. Trust with teenagers, for instance, can be a tricky thing. So, how can you use, for instance, AI to run role plays and scenarios before you get into a difficult conversation, better understand what to avoid and what might open them up to be listening a little bit deeper? And how to know that sometimes when you say something, they're listening. They just may not let you know that they're listening. But it's also important that you don't go too far. Now, let's come back to my work and the reset mindset. Personalization is more than a marketing strategy or a leadership method. It's a reset practice. It's a practice to step back away from the emotion of a situation and consider the person, tap into your empathy. It's a way to step back and look at the dynamic, to look at your relationship. It's not about being right, it's about getting it right, right? How can I make this more about them than about me? So when you do that, when you step back to think about it and give yourself space to do that, and you do it through saying, okay, how can I be more personal here? How can I give more specific and personal recognition or feedback or career development? That's going to help the others to receive it in the way that you want to. And of course, it's going to make you also in a place where you're listening for their feedback. Are they receiving it in the way that you intended? And if not, now you can be more adaptable and adjust in the moment. And this is how, when you use personalization intentionally, you can really gain a deeper connection. And it supports you because, well, if you're feeling anxious about a difficult conversation, or maybe this is new to you in leadership, you want to build trust and engagement and resilience in your team. Well, this is a valuable tool for you. I know it seems weird to call it a tool, but personalization can be a tool, but in a positive way. I know it seems weird to call personalization a tool, but it is a tool. It is a strategy. It's something to step back and tap into so that you can tap into deeper connections, so that you can build trust, so that you can drive engagement, and so that you can increase resilience. So just remember, so to close out for today, whether it's the butcher remembering your order and the day that you come in, or whether it's Netflix suggesting your next binge and show to watch, or if it's a leader calling out your name in a meeting, the science is the same. Personalization isn't a trend, It's hardwired in what it means to be human. And this is how we can balance and have AI and human collaboration work for us in our lives and in our leadership. So thank you for listening to Time to Reset. I hope this has had you reset the way you think about AI and personalization and how they could come together. I hope this has made you rethink a little bit technology and personalization and how you could be using it together. And of course, if it resonated with you, please share this with a colleague or a friend who needs to hear this, who might be inspired by this, who might drive a greater sense of connection within their team. And lastly, just remember that personalization isn't an algorithm. It's a reset moment, a moment to tap into your connection with your coworkers, with your kids, with your spouse, with your parents, or even just that person that you just met on the street. It's about tapping in to the humanity. We all want to feel like we matter. Thank you for listening because you do matter. You matter to me because you're why I'm doing this show, to make a difference. And so please share this with a friend, with a colleague. Send in your questions, make some comments. I really would love to hear what resonated with you and what other topics you'd like to hear and what I could do differently to make this a better experience. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.